With our eyes fixed on all that lies ahead, we remain steadfast in our pursuits of knowledge, exploration, seeking and understanding life, here and beyond. We see the opportunities before us: a new system to land humans on the moon, a robotic rover to map ice on the lunar South Pole, new entry technologies for landing on Mars, an airplane capable of quiet supersonic flights. All of this to press humanity forward. And it is the cadence of our efforts throughout 2020 that is building momentum for the future. The International Space Station remains the jewel of our efforts in low Earth orbit as we celebrate 20 years of continuously living and working in space. And this year, with commercial partners, American astronauts will once again launch on American rockets from American soil. This year, we bring to life the core stage of the most powerful rocket ever built, the Space Launch System. And the Orion spacecraft will complete its testing, then make its way to our space coast for the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission. During the course of 2020, the development of the Gateway Lunar Station will pave the way for our return to the moon by 2024. With every advancement for the moon, we push forward similar capabilities for Mars. And just as we have recently expanded the astronaut corps, we once again will invite explorers to apply for the missions ahead. As we reach farther and farther out, we see more of the intricate beauty of our home planet. Our fleet of Earth satellites and the scientists using their data will reveal insights about our ever-changing planet. For the first time, we will fly our experimental all-electric aircraft with motors that are efficient and reliable. And this year, we will see the final results from our field demos of a system to support the safe flight of drones. In the drumbeat of this year, we will see our spacecraft get closer and closer to the sun, touch the surface of an asteroid, and launch our most advanced rover yet to Mars. This is a year of action. Our progress across this agency is growing. With each milestone, we are preparing to go farther than ever before and lay the foundation for all that comes next.
Well, what a great video and what a great time to be part of NASA. I can tell you the excitement is palpable here at Stennis as we have an actual flight stage in our test stand for the first time in over 49 years. Welcome to Stennis Space Center, the nation's largest and premier rocket propulsion test site. My name is Rick Gilbrick, and I'm both blessed and honored to serve as director of this center and to work with our talented team. Welcome to our distinguished guests, members of the NASA family, and everyone watching on NASA TV. Welcome to members of the media who help us share the incredible NASA story. This is one of the most exciting times I've experienced in my 28-year NASA career. As Stennis nears its 60th year, it has compiled an unparalleled record of rocket propulsion testing expertise and excellence. From Apollo program through the space shuttle years, and continuing today, Stennis tests the rocket engines and stages that power this nation's space dreams. We are now on the eve of a great new era of space exploration powered by NASA's new Space Launch System rocket, built just down the road at Marshall's Michoud Assembly Facility. The first SLS core stage is currently installed on our B-2 test stand for a series of integrated tests to demonstrate its readiness to fly. NASA will use SLS to fly Artemis program missions to establish a sustainable presence on the moon and prepare for missions to Mars. The core stage now at Stennis will help launch the maiden Artemis 1 test mission. The Artemis 3 mission will make history when it carries the first woman and the next man to the moon by 2024. Those future missions are being enabled right now at Stennis, which makes it a particular pleasure to welcome you, as well as the distinguished leader of NASA. Jim Bridenstine has served as NASA Administrator for 2 years. He has embraced that role with unbridled passion, working to inspire and enable the NASA family and the public to dream, to dare, and to drive forward. I wanted to thank him for his enthusiasm and his deft skills navigating discussions on the budget in Washington, D.C., and we're about to find out how he did. To all of you, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine.
Go NASA Stennis. Go NASA. And go America. It is great to be here at the Stennis Space Center, America's premier propulsion testing center, and I cannot think of a better place to roll out NASA's 2021 budget request than right here, where we are ushering in a civilization-changing era of human spaceflight. I want to especially recognize Representative Palazzo, who is with us today, and I'd like to recognize others with us here today, staff from the offices of Senator Wicker, Senator Hyde-Smith, and Senator Cassidy, and the Mayor of Slidell, Mayor Cromer. Where's Mayor Cromer? He gave me the great, the key to the city here of Slidell, and I haven't used it yet, but I intend to. So I want to look at this rocket for a second. You just heard the Center Director say that we're going to the moon by 2024. That rocket in the B-2 test stand is in fact the moon. That is the SLS rocket, core stage complete. We're doing the green run right here at Stennis. That's for you, Representative Palazzo. And we're going to be taking that rocket to the moon when we launch Artemis 1. So thank you all for the great work on all of that activity. Please join me in thanking Rick Gilbrick and his Stennis team for making this amazing event possible. Thank you, Rick. I would also like to thank Eileen Drake and everyone at Aerojet Rocketdyne for allowing us to use their building and for creating these beautiful displays, including the RL-10 in front of me, the RS-25s behind me. Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Aerojet Rocketdyne. History is being made here, as well as all across our storied agency. Our nearly 18,000-person-strong workforce is developing cutting-edge technology and expanding our scientific knowledge with ever greater discoveries. From the newest members of our team to the most senior, your unrelenting determination and teamwork are what has made NASA ranked the best place to work in the federal government for the 8th consecutive year. Thank you, NASA. The late-night, dogged persistence of NASA employees is the mold into which history is poured. In no metaphoric terms, we are, in truth, leading the world into a new and dynamic era of spaceflight. The nation is proudly behind us in this endeavor, and I am happy to announce that President Donald Trump's fiscal year 2021 budget request invests in NASA more than $25 billion. That's a 12% increase, and it includes $3.3 billion for a human landing system. This is a 21st century budget worthy of 21st century space exploration and one of our strongest budgets in NASA history. Last week, during his State of the Union address, President Trump challenged our nation to venture farther into space than ever before. Quote, "We must remember that America has always been a frontier nation." And then he asked Congress to, quote, "fully fund the Artemis program to ensure that the next man and the first woman on the moon will be American astronauts." And he said, in fact, he said, quote, "use this as a launching pad to ensure that America is the first nation to plant its flag on Mars." If the president's support for NASA wasn't clear before, it should be obvious now. The administration and a bipartisan coalition in the Congress are committed to utilizing the great talents of this agency we call NASA. Their support for what we are doing is not empty rhetoric. They are backing up our vision of a renewed era of discovery by giving NASA ever-increasing budgets every year, and now we must deliver. It is up to us to deliver. It was only 10 months ago that Vice President Mike Pence announced the president's policy to accelerate the Artemis program's timeline and land the first woman and the next man on the moon by 2024. He instructed all of us to adopt a spirit of relentless determination and a renewed sense of focus. No one embodies this more than astronaut Christina Koch, who just last week finished her nearly year-long mission aboard the International Space Station. During her rookie mission, she broke records for the longest single spaceflight by a woman and ventured outside the station on 6 different spacewalks, including not just the first one, but the first 3 all-woman extravehicular activities in history. Like Christina, the Artemis program's bold vision must be matched by our unflinching devotion to what is necessary to advance the nation farther and faster than ever before. Nowhere has this been more apparent than the progress made on the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion crew capsule. The 2021 budget, and Marshall, and Michoud, and Kennedy, and Johnson, they should all be happy. Everybody in NASA should be happy. This is important. The 2021 budget fully funds SLS and Orion. Let's talk about Orion for a second. Orion is the first human spacecraft we've built for deep space missions in over a generation. Last year, engineers fully assembled the Orion spacecraft in preparation for the Artemis I mission and are now halfway through the final testing at Plumbrook Station in Ohio. After final testing is complete, the Orion will be returned to the Kennedy Space Center and be stacked atop the Space Launch System in preparation for the Artemis I mission. Let's talk about SLS. The Space Launch System rocket is the foundation of our 21st century space exploration missions to the moon and to Mars. Its unprecedented power and capabilities will send American astronauts farther than ever before. Just a few months ago, engineers completed assembling the core stage and integrating the 4 RS-25 engines. In fact, the RS-25 engine's behind me. And right here at Stennis Space Center, we will conduct the green run test for the SLS. That's for you, Congressman Palazzo. Congressman Palazzo stuck around he's got to get to the airport to help us with our funding, but he stuck around just to hear me say that line, just so everybody's aware. I said it twice. He just gave me, yeah, you said it twice. That's good. This is a 212-foot tall core stage. It's the largest rocket ever built by the agency and a monumental engineering feat in its own right. It is a testament to American enterprise and ingenuity, with more than 1,000 large and small businesses in 44 states contributing to the design and the assembly. The SLS rocket is, in fact, America's rocket. let's go out to the B-2 test stand here at Stennis.
Thanks, sir. I'm astronaut Rajachari.
Hi, I'm Dawn Davis.
And like you said, we're standing here at Stennis Space Center in front of the B-2 stand. And just like there's a lot of history and heritage there at Aerojet Rocketdyne, where you guys are at, there's a whole bunch of history and heritage here at Stennis, but specifically this B-2 test stand. Right now we have loaded up the SLS core stage, which is going to launch the Artemis 1 mission on the unmanned test. But before that, they're going to do a green run, because like you mentioned, safety and reliability is key as we take on the challenges that await us as we go back to the moon and beyond. And the SLS is key because unlike the Saturn V and Apollo, we're going back to the moon to stay this time and to build a sustainable presence at the moon and Mars eventually. Not only are we going back to the moon, though, but this year is super exciting in the astronaut office because there's 3 new vehicles in development all at the same time, something that's never happened in the agency. So besides SLS, we're also working with our commercial partners at SpaceX and Boeing to launch Americans from U.S. soil back to the space station this year. And as you mentioned, Christina Cook just coming back, a great testament to overcoming the challenges of space, just like the engineers and scientists here at NASA have been overcoming the challenges that await us as we move forward. So it's great, exciting to see the budget roll out and to know we have the support of the country and bipartisan support as we endeavor to take on these challenges. But in the near term, we're going to have to launch this rocket. And to do that, we have a green run test coming up. So here to talk about that is Dawn Davis.
So right, Roger. Exciting times for NASA, but especially here at Stennis Space Center, as the SLS core stage resides right now on our historic B-2 test stand in preparation for green run testing. So the green run testing provides us the first opportunity to do integrated testing of the core stage components, starting with individual testing and actually culminating with the firing of all 4 RS-25 engines, generating over 2 million pounds of thrust, just like you would have done launch. So exciting times again as we prepare for our voyage back to the moon.
I can tell you in the astronaut office, there's quite a bit of competition going on to see who's going to be able to sit in the front row of this test a few hundred feet away and watch this impressive feat and impressive test when all 4 of those things fire up at the same time. So very excited to be here and so excited to be a part of this amazing year and to have a graduate astronaut candidate training and to be now part of the team that's going to go back to the moon and beyond. Back to you, sir.
Now, in full disclosure, Rajachari and Dawn Davis are not actually at the B-2 test stand. They're in the room right now. Would you two please stand up so we can give you some applause? After the green run, the next time this core stage will roar to life will be on the launch pad at Kennedy for the Artemis 1 mission to the moon. After Artemis 1, these RS-25 engines behind me will launch American astronauts to the moon for the first time since Apollo on Artemis 2 and Artemis 3. Now, that's Artemis 2. That's an Artemis 2 engine, 1 of 4 for Artemis 2, and that's 1 of 4 for Artemis 3. And I want to make sure that we thank Aerojet Rocketdyne for their amazing work to put these engines on order and get them complete so that we can get this rocket launched. Thank you, Aerojet Rocketdyne. Another pair of components vitally important to the Artemis program and our eventual missions to Mars are the Human Landing System and the Gateway. The President's 2021 budget supports these critical elements of the Artemis architecture that will enable us to explore the moon in a way that's never been done before. Like Gateway, or the Gateway, or as sometimes I call it, the Gateway to Mars, is the civilization-changing technology that will propel us to Mars for the first time in human history. Constructing this space vehicle in orbit around the moon will help us prove the technology we need for an eventual crewed mission to the Red Planet. NASA's Science Mission Directorate and NASA's Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate will need to work together like never before to make this a reality. Parts of our Gateway to Mars are already under development, and the 2021 budget will allow us to start construction on the others. Prototype thrusters that take advantage of solar electric propulsion developed by NASA's Space Technology Mission Directorate were completed and have now been delivered by commercial partners last year. Thank you again, Aerojet Rocketdyne. The human landing system is another critical element of the Artemis architecture. One of the most noteworthy features of the 2021 fiscal budget, this is crazy, one of the most noteworthy features of the 2021 fiscal budget is the $3.3 billion President Trump has directed for development of the human landing system. 2020 marked the first time we've had direct funding for a human landing system since the Apollo program. The Human Landing System, or HLS, will be used to ferry American astronauts between the lunar surface and the Gateway. Last year, our agency's HLS team went above and beyond the call of duty in response to the Vice President's 2024 announcement. In record time, they executed the first step in calling for industry proposals for an entirely new multi-billion-dollar program. What would normally have taken NASA 2 years was accomplished in roughly 6 months. NASA is serious about meeting our 2024 goal, and this team's excellent work demonstrates our desire to get the mission right. The HLS team is currently hard at work, evaluating several proposals received from industry, and is preparing to make final awards in the coming months. Thank you to the HLS team. Let's talk about a milestone long sought after that we will soon achieve: returning human spaceflight to the United States of America. This year, we will once again launch American astronauts on American rockets from American soil for the first time in nearly a decade. The emerging market in low Earth orbit, where NASA is one customer among many, is revolutionizing our ability to do more science, more exploration, and more technology development than ever before. Although our ultimate goal is far beyond low Earth orbit, what we do there is vital to exploration. The President's budget fully supports the International Space Station's missions to learn about human health in microgravity, demonstrate cutting-edge technology, and perform trailblazing science. The ISS is one of the most ambitious international collaborations ever even attempted. The relationships we have developed with the European, Japanese, Russian, and Canadian space agencies and all of the others are absolutely invaluable to NASA. And this year we mark 20 years of continuous human presence aboard the International Space Station. I was speaking to a group of students at a university just last week, and it dawned on me that half of the people in the audience, 18, 19, even 20 years old, they've never lived a day of their lives when there weren't people living and working in space. That is a monumental achievement, not just for the United States of America, but for the entire coalition of nations that we lead on the International Space Station. As we plan to go forward to the moon sustainably, we want to bring the American aerospace industry with us through a program that we call the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Initiative, CLPS. CLPS is fully supported by the 2021 budget and will utilize the capabilities of American industry to deliver 16 NASA science and technology payloads to the lunar surface starting next year. That means next year we are putting payloads on the surface of the moon for the first time since 1972. Let's go out to the Goddard Space Flight Center and get an update on some of these CLPS missions.
Hi, I'm Noah Petro at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. I'm the project scientist on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, an incredible spacecraft that we've had orbiting the moon now for over 10 years, creating the most amazing data set for our nearest neighbor in space, the moon. Now, as part of the Artemis program, NASA is working with multiple American companies to deliver new science to the lunar surface. We call it the Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLPS. We've identified more than 24 experiments to send to the surface with these small landers. The first 16 experiments are set to launch next year, and 5 of the experiments are being built right here at Goddard. With those experiments, we'll be able to learn about the composition of the surface of the moon, the dynamics of the interaction of the moon with the sun, and the presence and distribution of volatiles on the lunar surface. Now right here, I have a very small experiment. It's called the Lunar Retroreflector Array. It's a small set of 8 mirrors. This experiment will be mounted to the top of a lander, and so when it's sitting on the surface, we'll be able to shoot laser beams, whether we're shooting laser beams from a spacecraft orbiting overhead or a rover. This laser beams and the interaction with these sets of mirrors will tell us exactly where the lander is on the surface of the moon. It'll act as sort of a beacon. That one point will tell us exactly about where it is in space, and if we make those measurements repeatedly, we'll understand how that point is moving in space, and that can tell us something about the interior of the moon. So it's a very exciting opportunity from this incredibly small package. Now, I'm very happy to send you over to my colleague, Mehdi Benna, who's going to talk about his experiment called SEAL.
Thanks. As you can see, we are here in one of NASA's Goddard clear rooms where we are finishing the integration of the SEAL instrument. SEAL stands for the Surface and Exosphere Alterations by Landers. This instrument will be tasked of measuring how the tenuous environment of the moon is altered by the exhaust plumes of the lander. This will allow scientists to gain more insight in how future spacecraft landing may affect soil samples that are collected in the vicinity. So that's one of the things we have going on at Goddard. We're very excited of being part of NASA's journey back to the moon.
All right. We'll issue 2 more task orders this year for deliveries to the lunar surface in 2022, and 2 each year thereafter, including 1 delivery for the Viper rover to search for polar ice as early as December of 2022. All right, let's talk about science and aeronautics and technology. The 2021 budget strongly supports NASA's full suite of science, aeronautics, and technology work. The President's budget is committed to an all-of-NASA approach in order to best move us into the next era of science and discovery. This includes supporting the decadal survey priorities identified by the science community, including history's first Mars sample return mission, the Europa Clipper, and more advanced Earth observation missions. Yesterday, we successfully launched Solar Orbiter from Cape Canaveral. Go Solar Orbiter. This cooperative mission between the European Space Agency and NASA will conduct trailblazing science in heliophysics and give us our first images of the sun's poles. This budget also funds over 40 innovative science missions, accelerating our opportunities to do state-of-the-art science on the deepest parts of the universe, as well as right here on Earth. We are preparing to launch the long-anticipated James Webb Space Telescope in 2021, and this budget gives us the funds to do just that. This premier observatory will serve thousands of astronomers as they seek to better understand the universe. I'm going to anchor here for a second. Think about this. When we talk about the James Webb Space Telescope, we're talking about a telescope that will be somewhere around 10 degrees Kelvin, almost absolute zero in temperature. It is going to see, for the first time in human history, the first light in the universe. It will be in infrared, it won't be in light, but that's because as the universe has expanded, it has gone from light waves to now infrared. That is going to be an absolute stunning moment, not just in the history of the United States of America, but a stunning moment for our nation and for the world, and it will forever add chapters to science books and history books. Closer to Earth. The 2021 budget supports a robust fleet of next-generation Earth observatory missions, including launches of Landsat 9, SWAT, and Sentinel-6A Mike Freilich. Sentinel-6A Mike Freilich was recently renamed after NASA's longtime Earth Science Director. I would like everybody to give a round of applause to Mike Freilich and everything he has done for NASA Earth Science. Technology drives exploration. Technology drives exploration, and technology development in the coming years will be essential for exploring the moon and preparing crews for long-term missions on Mars. This budget includes more than $1.5 billion for exploration technology in support of the Artemis program. Some examples include turning space waste into useful gases for long-duration missions, and using nuclear propulsion to accelerate our path to the red planet. The 2021 budget also strongly supports planetary science, including providing funds to study the celestial bodies around us like never before. The Mars 2020 rover is a very exciting mission that I anticipate also will rewrite textbooks. This summer, we will launch this rover as part of our next-generation robotic explorations. This mission will not only look for signs of habitable conditions on Mars in the ancient past, but also search for signs of past microbial life itself, and include, and I love this part, and include the first ever helicopter to fly on another world. Mars 2020 will also test methods for producing oxygen from the Martian atmosphere for the first time and identify resources on the surface that could support our future astronauts' long-term missions. Furthermore, the Mars 2020 rover will initiate a long-sought-after mission of returning Martian rocks and soil to the Earth for further study. Let's go to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab to hear more about this pioneering mission.
Hi, I'm Raquel Villanueva here at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Now, it's been a dream of scientists for generations to bring back samples from the surface of Mars. And right now, the Mars 2020 rover mission is laying the groundwork. And that's why I'm in the In Situ Instrument Laboratory with Jessica Samuels. And she's here to tell us what's going on here.
Well, we use this facility to develop and design our hardware and software systems for our Mars mission.
And how does the sampling system work?
So we have a drill on the end of our robotic arm, and as we are drilling the surface of Mars, we will be collecting pieces of Mars into the sample tube at that time. We'll then transfer that sample tube into the inside of the rover and then seal it for storage as we continue to explore the surface. After we've collected a diverse set of samples, we will drop them off onto the surface and then have them there for our future sample return mission to continue.
Well, I know you have some tests to keep doing, and I'm actually going to go check out the next phase at a different lab. We're in a testing lab affectionately known as the Sandbox, and I'm here with Austin Nicholas. Now, can you explain how we are going to bring back samples from Mars?
So starting from after 2020 has deposited tubes on the surface, there are 2 more missions to go in bringing the tubes back to Earth. The first is a lander mission. It carries 3 major elements: a sample fetch rover and a sample transfer arm that lets you transfer the samples from the fetch rover into the rocket, and a Mars ascent vehicle, which is a rocket that brings the samples from Mars into space. Meanwhile, the orbiter has also launched from Earth in 2026 and is making its way towards Mars, and it will be in position by the time the rocket's fully loaded. The orbiter will then go to the sample container that the rocket's put into space and then capture it, ultimately bringing them to Earth in 2031.
That sounds complicated.
It is complicated, but fortunately we're not doing it alone. So we have a great partnership with the European Space Agency, and they're providing some major pieces of this mission. Within NASA, we've actually got a number of centers working on all of the different pieces. So we're partnering with Marshall Space Flight Center for the Mars Ascent Vehicle, Langley and Ames for the Earth Entry Vehicle, Glenn for the Sample Fetch Rover wheels, and we're partnering with Goddard for the orbiter payload. And so there's really it's a whole NASA effort to get Mars sample return done.
Sounds like there is a lot of work to be done, but this all kicks off with the launch of Mars 2020 this summer in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And there's lots of excitement here as we get ready to make history.
The Mars sample return mission is a high priority not only for the scientific knowledge it will provide, but also the opportunity it presents to tackle a difficult technological challenge. Remember, Mars 2020 is going to have the first Mars helicopter. The Mars sample return will include the first ever rocket launched from another planet. For more than 50 years, the Aeronautics Mission Directorate at NASA has advanced game-changing technologies like fuel-efficient turbofan engines, fuel-saving winglets, lighter composite structures, and digital fly-by-wire to shape modern aviation as we know it. Truly, NASA is with you when you fly. Today, we are reinventing aviation for the next 50 years, where aircraft look different and aircraft are powered differently. The world of aviation is about to change forever, and the men and women of NASA are leading those changes. The 2021 budget fully supports aeronautics research that enables breakthroughs such as our X-57 all-electric experimental airplane, scheduled to fly later this year. Lessons learned from the X-57 are already being shared with the new electric vertical lift vehicle market. We are also moving forward on the testing of the low-boom flight demonstrator, with an anticipated first flight in 2022. A successful, quiet, supersonic flight demonstration will pave the way for overland supersonic flight that could cut commercial flight times in half. And the budget supports one aeronautics project that, in my opinion, has one of the greatest potentials to change all of our lives: urban air mobility. In the near future, semi and fully autonomous vehicles will provide many new services and carry packages and people in and around cities large and small. A big part of the urban air mobility world is the small drones that will transform the commercial delivery for industry, emergency response, and agriculture monitoring, and so much more. Friends, this is who we are at NASA. All across this agency, I see people that perfectly exemplify the dedication, urgency, and uncommon commitment that was called for by Vice President Mike Pence just 10 months ago. This year, we must build on our success by continuing to devote ourselves to the agency mission. The milestones we hit this year through the Green Run test, that's for you again, Palazzo. He's going to hit me later. The milestones we hit this year through the Green Run testing of the SLS and in the launching of astronauts on American-made rockets from American soil will place us on the cusp of era-defining space exploration. And the science and technology we are working on right now will prepare us in this new exploration to take humanity's next giant leap to Mars. Friends, we are the Artemis generation, and we are going. Thank you so much.
With our eyes fixed on all that lies ahead, we remain steadfast in our pursuits of knowledge, exploration, seeking and understanding life, here and beyond. We see the opportunities before us: a new system to land humans on the moon, a robotic rover to map ice on the lunar South Pole, new entry technologies for landing on Mars, an airplane capable of quiet supersonic flights. All of this to press humanity forward. And it is the cadence of our efforts throughout 2020 that is building momentum for the future. The International Space Station remains the jewel of our efforts in low Earth orbit as we celebrate 20 years of continuously living and working in space. And this year, with commercial partners, American astronauts will once again launch on American rockets from American soil. This year, we bring to life the core stage of the most powerful rocket ever built, the Space Launch System. And the Orion spacecraft will complete its testing, then make its way to our space coast for the uncrewed Artemis 1 mission. During the course of 2020, the development of the Gateway Lunar Station will pave the way for our return to the moon by 2024. With every advancement for the moon, we push forward similar capabilities for Mars. And just as we have recently expanded the astronaut corps, we once again will invite explorers to apply for the missions ahead. As we reach farther and farther out, we see more of the intricate beauty of our home planet. Our fleet of Earth satellites and the scientists using their data will reveal insights about our ever-changing planet. For the first time, we will fly our experimental all-electric aircraft with motors that are efficient and reliable. And this year, we will see the final results from our field demos of a system to support the safe flight of drones. In the drumbeat of this year, we will see our spacecraft get closer and closer to the sun, touch the surface of an asteroid, and launch our most advanced rover yet to Mars. This is a year of action. Our progress across this agency is growing. With each milestone, we are preparing to go farther than ever before and lay the foundation for all that comes next.
"50 years ago, we went to the moon. We called it Apollo.
What many people don't know is that Apollo had a twin.
She was a woman named Artemis, goddess of the moon.
We are returning to the moon
As a new generation of explorers.
This time to stay.
And to prepare to achieve humanity's next giant leap of sending the first human mission